Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. You know, the South African Springboks, they are back-to-back world champions right now.
Yeah, sitting on a pedestal so high they are practically like in orbit.
Exactly. But according to a legend who helped build that legacy back in 1995, the absolute worst thing that can happen to this team right now is playing against a broken, struggling New Zealand squad.
Right, the wounded animal scenario.
Exactly. And before we get into exactly why a wounded All Blacks team might be the ultimate threat to South Africa's reign, please take a quick second to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. You really do not want to miss the tactical breakdowns we have coming up this season.
Yeah, you really don't. And that dynamic of the wounded opponent is just, well, it's crucial today. We're unpacking a piece from Planet Rugby about the upcoming Greatest Rivalry 4-test series between the Springboks and the All Blacks.
It's going to be massive.
Huge. And to understand the stakes, we really have to look at the mathematics of their current standing, right? So the Springboks sit completely clear at #1 in the world rugby rankings.
Right.
New Zealand is ranked second, but they're almost 4 full points behind.
Which is wild. I mean, 4 points in the world rugby ranking system is an absolute chasm.
Yeah.
People who casually follow the sport might hear #1 versus #2 and think, oh, it's a coin toss.
Yeah, totally.
But mathematically, to build a 4-point gap,
Mm-hmm.
a team has to consistently beat top-tier opposition away from home over an extended period. It means the Springboks are operating on a completely different frequency right now.
Oh, absolutely. And they have home advantage for 3 of these tests.
Right, with the 4th being played on neutral soil over in the USA.
Yeah. It represents a sustained period of total dominance. I mean, the Springboks haven't just won 2 consecutive World Cups in 2019 and 2023. They have established a blueprint for test match rugby that the rest of the globe is, frankly, struggling to decode. Meanwhile, New Zealand rugby is in a state of administrative and on-field upheaval.
It's been messy.
Very. The All Blacks had a genuinely underwhelming 2024 and 2025 campaign, which triggered an official review.
Right, and that led to the highly publicized sacking of head coach Scott Robertson. Which brings us to the core of this deep dive. With South Africa seemingly untouchable and New Zealand reeling from a coaching dismissal, a massive warning shot has been fired at the Springboks.
And from a very credible source, too.
Exactly. Japie Mulder, who won the 1995 Rugby World Cup as a center for South Africa, has essentially told current Springboks boss Rassie Erasmus to beware the underdog.
Yeah.
Mulder says, regardless of what the rankings suggest, writing off this touring All Blacks team would be fatal.
And Mulder's perspective is anchored entirely in his own lived experience. In 1995, South Africa was returning from international sporting isolation.
Right. They were a complete unknown in a lot of ways.
Exactly. They weren't rated by the global rugby media at all. The consensus was that simply making the quarterfinals would be like a successful campaign for them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nobody, and certainly not the heavily favored teams they faced, gave them a statistical chance to win the tournament. Yet they lifted the trophy.
They sure did.
So Mulder knows firsthand the psychological armor that comes from having 0 external expectations.
Well, I understand the romance of the 1995 narrative. I really do. But I have to push back on Mulder's specific claim in this article.
Okay, what part?
He states that because of the sheer quality of the players on both sides, either team could realistically win or lose this series 4-0.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sorry, but a 4-0 sweep by the All Blacks against a back-to-back world champion Springbok side playing 3 matches in their own backyard.
It sounds like a stretch.
Right. With a New Zealand team that just fired their head coach and appointed Dave Rennie to clean up the mess, that just feels like Mulder's being provocative to drive headlines,
Well, I actually see it a bit differently. A 4-year-in sweep sounds statistically improbable, I will grant you that. But tactically, it is a genuine threat.
Wait, really? How so?
We have to look at the mechanics of a mid-cycle coaching change. So Scott Robertson ran a very complex, heavily structured attacking system.
Right.
And that clearly wasn't translating to the test arena for this specific group of players. Now, the Springboks' entire defensive intelligence operation, their video analysts, their defensive coordinators, they have spent the last 2 years coding and studying Robertson's patterns.
Right, so they know exactly where the New Zealand strike runners are supposed to be on, like third phase ball.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But with Dave Rennie stepping in, all of that data becomes obsolete overnight.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, Rennie is a pragmatist. He strips away over-engineered playbooks and focuses on brutal forward efficiency and rapid transition attack, So the Springboks are essentially flying blind into this series.
Eyes wild.
They have absolutely no current take on how a Dave Rennie coached All Blacks side operates in 2026.
So the lack of cohesion, the chaos of the transition, is actually New Zealand's biggest weapon here.
Exactly. That is the element of surprise Mulder is highlighting. And furthermore, look at the raw physical talent Dave Rennie has at his disposal.
It's immense.
Right. New Zealand is navigating a rebuild, sure, but they are rebuilding with generational athletes who can break a game wide open in unstructured play.
Yeah, if you give them an inch, they take a mile.
And if you run a highly choreographed defensive line speed like the Springboks do, and the attacking team does something completely unscripted because they are operating on a blank slate,
Right.
your defense can fracture. When you combine raw individual brilliance with the dangerous mentality of having nothing to lose, an ambush is entirely possible.
That makes a lot of sense. You prepare for a chess match and the opponent shows up and just flips the board.
Yeah.
Well, just a quick reminder for you listening. If you are enjoying this breakdown of the tactical warfare happening behind the scenes, please subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description. We love unpacking these dynamics for you.
We really do.
So if the All Blacks are this highly unpredictable, unscripted threat, we need to examine what Dave Rennie is actually walking into. Because he isn't just facing a good rugby team.
No, not at all.
He is going up against Rassie Erasmus, a coach who is arguably operating at a level of strategic mastery we rarely see in international sports.
Yeah, and the source material places a heavy emphasis on Mulder's praise for Erasmus, specifically regarding his squad management.
Right.
Usually when a team reaches the absolute pinnacle, winning 2 consecutive World Cups,
Yeah.
the natural human instinct is preservation. Coaches tend to stick with the veteran players who won them the trophies.
They rely on a rigid system until the wheels inevitably fall off. You just ride the wave until it crashes.
Exactly. But Erasmus is doing the exact opposite. He is actively treating the Springboks like a perpetual work in progress.
Right.
He is phasing out older, highly decorated players and integrating uncapped rookies. And he's doing all of this while maintaining that massive 4-point lead at the top of the world rankings.
It's real good.
They are already establishing the foundations for an unprecedented three-peat at the 2027 World Cup in Australia.
This is the part I really want you to break down for us because conceptually, it sounds simple, but practically, it just seems impossible.
It is very difficult.
How does a coach execute a generational rebuild without sacrificing results?
Yeah.
I mean, you are taking out players with 80 test caps who know the system intimately and putting in 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yet the performance metrics of the team don't drop a single percentage point. How does Erasmus manage that transition on the pitch?
Well, think of it like a software update that runs in the background of your device.
Okay.
You don't have to reboot the entire system and halt productivity. The individual lines of code just swap out seamlessly.
That's a great analogy.
Erasmus accomplishes this through a deeply entrenched structural environment. First, he utilizes rigorous alignment camps.
Right.
A rookie doesn't just show up on a Tuesday and learn the playbook for a Saturday test match. They are brought into the environment months, sometimes years in advance.
Just to be around it all.
Yeah, exactly. To learn the tactical language without the immense pressure of having to perform on match day.
So by the time they actually put the jersey on, the cognitive load of learning the system is completely gone. They literally just have to play rugby.
Precisely. But that is only half the equation. The second half is how he physically deploys them during the match.
Right.
Erasmus rarely debuts a young playmaker by starting him against a ferocious opponent. Instead, he utilizes the immense physical dominance of the Springbok forward pack.
Ah, the famous 7-1 or 6-2 split on the replacement bench.
Exactly. The bomb squad.
Right, bringing on 6 fresh, world-class forwards in the second half to completely demolish the opposition's remaining energy.
It is exactly the environment you want for a rookie. Think about it. Erasmus will bring a young backline player onto the pitch in the, say, 65th minute.
Yeah.
By that point, the opposition is physically shattered from dealing with the South African forwards. So the rookie isn't being asked to carry the weight of the game or orchestrate a massive comeback.
He is simply asked to steer a ship that is already cruising at top speed.
Right. It insulates the new generation from the trauma of international defeat early in their careers. The standard remains incredibly high because the environment protects the individual.
That institutional setup is fascinating. The machine is designed to absorb new parts without altering its output.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Planet Rugby article brings in another heavyweight voice here, and it offers a direct challenge to that machine. Sir Steve Hansen, the legendary former All Blacks coach who won the World Cup in 2015.
Oh, yes.
He has offered some public advice to the new man in charge, Dave Rennie. Hansen urged Rennie to look closely at what the Springboks are doing and to, quote, pinch one or two things.
Right.
But he included a very specific caveat. He said New Zealand shouldn't just copy Rassie Erasmus.
And that distinction, the difference between pinching a tactic and copying an identity, is vital here.
Tell me more about that.
Well, South African rugby is built on a very specific physical and cultural DNA. It's relentless set-piece pressure, territory domination through the boot, and just suffocating physicality.
Yeah, they are massive.
Right. Meanwhile, New Zealand rugby is historically built on spatial awareness, handling skills, and high-tempo continuity.
Right.
So if Dave Rennie tries to turn the All Blacks into a direct copy of the Springboks, it will fail. Why? Because New Zealand doesn't produce the same type of 120-kilogram Type 5 forwards in the same volume.
So what exactly is Hansen suggesting Rennie should steal? If you can't steal the personnel, what tactics actually cross over effectively?
Hansen is likely pointing toward the Springboks' defensive architecture and their psychological alignment. Defensively, South Africa employs an aggressive out-to-in rush defense. Their wingers jam inwards, sprinting up off the line to cut off the passing options behind the gain line,
Which forces the attacking team into rushed decisions and frequently generates handling errors.
Exactly. Now, historically, the All Blacks have preferred a drift defense, showing the attacker the sideline and using the touchline as an extra defender.
But if Rennie adopts that aggressive South African rush speed...
Then he weaponizes New Zealand's greatest strength, which is counterattack.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if a rushed defensive line forces a spilled ball in midfield, players like Rieko Ioane or Damian McKenzie are suddenly operating in broken play against an unorganized defense.
Which is where they thrive.
Right. Hansen is essentially saying, steal the mechanism that creates the chaos, but use your own genetic strengths to exploit it.
I love that. Take the South African hammer, but use it to shatter the glass so your sports cars can drive through.
That's a great way to put it. And it is also about stealing the psychological buy-in.
Right.
Erasmus has convinced multi-million-dollar superstar athletes that playing only the final 20 minutes of a match is a badge of honor, not a demotion.
Yeah, the bomb squad mentality.
Exactly. If Dave Rennie can pinch that level of egoless commitment from the Springbok camp and apply it to the All Blacks roster, he solves half of his selection headaches immediately.
This is exactly why this four-test series is an absolute must-watch for you. We are looking at the ultimate clash of trajectories.
Truly.
You have a dominant back-to-back champion in South Africa methodically and confidently updating its roster from a position of absolute power.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have a wounded giant in New Zealand, armed with incredible raw talent, throwing away the old playbook.
Right, and starting a completely fresh chapter under a pragmatic new coach who might just steal the champion's best tricks.
It's going to be incredible.
It is a highly volatile mix. The rankings suggest a mismatch, but the tactical realities on the ground suggest a highly dangerous confrontation. We would love to hear your thoughts on this dynamic. Do you agree with Japie Mulder's warning? Do the Springboks genuinely need to beware the underdog in this specific scenario?
Or is the 4-point gap in the global rankings simply too wide for a rebuilding New Zealand squad to bridge in one series? Drop into the comments and let us know.
Yeah, who do you think takes this upcoming Greatest Rivalry series?
Are we looking at a Springbok sweep, or does Dave Rennie engineer the ambush of the decade? Leave your thoughts below. We really want to see where you stand on this clash of titans.
I'll leave you with a final thought to chew on regarding Steve Hansen's advice. If Dave Rennie does successfully pinch those aggressive defensive tactics from the Springboks and seamlessly integrates them with the All Blacks' explosive counterattacking talent, the dynamic of world rugby shifts.
Oh, for sure.
What happens to the Springboks when the undisputed masters of a suffocating playing style are suddenly forced to play against their own hijacked tactical DNA?
That is a brilliant question. Building a weapon is one thing, but figuring out how to defend against it when someone points it back at you is entirely different.
Exactly.
We will have to see exactly how Rassie Erasmus adapts when the whistle blows. Before we wrap up, do not forget to subscribe to the Rugby Obsession YouTube channel and newsletter from the link in description.
Don't miss out.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.